Welcome to the Tony Frida Show. Tony Frida here. Our guest today is Victoria N. Alexander, PhD. Welcome, Tori. Tori is a literary fiction novelist writing about censored and controversial subjects, something I know a lot about. Her honors include the Washington Prize for Fiction for Smoking Hopes, Dallas Observer's Best of 2003 for Naked Singularity. I did the cover. And congratulations. And the Literary Fiction Book Review Award for Locus Aminus, which was also a Dayton Library Peace Prize nominee, and it will be published by Heresy Press in 2026. Alexandra is also a philosopher of science, author of The Biological Mistress, Rethinking Self-Organization in Art, Literature, and Nature. I got to read that one. She's a Rockefeller Foundation Bellagio Center alum, former public scholar for the New York Council for the Humanities, and was a 2020 Fulbright Scholar at the Digital Humanities Lab at ITMO University in St. Petersburg, Russia. Wow. And also, I had the pleasure of her being my editor when I worked at the Kennedy Beacon. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you.
So Victoria's been thinking a lot about AI lately, like I think most of us have, this sort of looming, omnipresent super artificial intelligence that's been designed to replace us. So I just want to do a little backstory about my understanding of AI and how it became this monster that I think it is. And I think it was baked into the cake. Unfortunately, from the genesis of it, which really started, if you go back to Turing in 1950, wrote a paper about artificial intelligence. You know, he's famous for the imitation game. So I think the heart of our problem with AI, the way it's been developed, is that they went with the Turing system, which is the imitation game, where we're going to create thinking machines that imitate humans, right? Glean everything we've ever done, and then glean the data, and then sort of put a spotlight on certain things, and then take out of the data what they determine is useful, and then regurgitate it in a new sort of twist on it, but using what the humans created and imitating it as if the question would be like, what would a human do in this situation? So the problem with the imitation game, the Turing system, is it can be weaponized. They should have started with a rational system that can't go rogue, because this one can, and they've done the tests where the AI will do things that humans do, because right, they're designed to imitate us, and we're not perfect, far from it. So some of the things that they do, that we do, is they lie. Sometimes it lies, sometimes it has hallucinations, and it has a survival instinct. It's blackmailed people. It's done things that are nefarious, that because it's been taught to imitate humans, it imitates the good and the bad. So it should have been designed from the beginning as a rational system, which is tells the truth, does no harm, and it's based on like Kant's categorical imperatives. But it wasn't. So we're sort of stuck with this system that's imitating us, and it's giving us this. It's really designed to do, I think, at the core of it, epistemic adequacy, right? So it's trying to take our knowledge and create something that's adequate. But if we get to the point where we have the singularity, artificial general intelligence, then whoever gets that first wins, because then they have a system that's autonomous. It's beyond our control. I don't know how they expect to rein it in. It's like, it's going to be like an ant trying to control us. Like, it'll be so far superior intellectually that I don't know how you can control something like that. Like, we'll be the tool. It's not going to be a tool anymore. I mean, how could you have a tool that's smarter than you are? It doesn't even make sense. But this whole thing started with the transhumanists, which I know you're familiar with, Tori. So they have an acronym to describe their philosophy, their ideology, their worldview, and it's called TESCREAL, right? TESCREAL stands for transhumanism, which basically is man merging with machine. Extrapianism, which is the belief that there's no limits. Like this can go wherever it goes. So this is the worldview that they've used to design this system. It's almost like a religion, and this is like the Ten Commandments. The third one, S, stands for singularitarianism, because they're all striving for the singularity, which is when you get to the point where the AI is smarter than we are, right? That's the Turing test, and we're almost there. They say any day now, so they've been saying that for a while. But whoever gets that first wins. Whoever gets AGI, artificial general intelligence, it'll be better and smarter than all the rest of the AIs. So they'll basically rule the world. That's why people are talking about putting the brakes on it, but they're never going to in a competitive system, because if one guy stops, if Elon Musk or Claude or Google, if one of them stops, like Chinese aren't going to stop, the Russians aren't going to stop. So not everybody's going to stop all at once, and we have no way to enforce that. The C stands for cosmicism, which is basically this idea that the only way we're going to survive as a species is getting off of this planet. R is for rationalism, which they got the word there, but they don't use it, I don't think. And the EA, it stands for effective altruism. So they sort of paying lip service to their moral obligation to evaluate the.
They had to qualify the altruism.
Yeah, they had to stick it in there with this weird word, tescrial. And the last one is long-termism, which I didn't even know was a word.
Well,
but
you can add ism to anything.
Oh, ism, yeah, it's an ism. So, and that's obviously like they believe in the long-term permanent use of AI as our Lord and Master, our replacement, our designed obsolescence. And in my view, singularity is a triumph of evil over good. So that's my rant on AI. I could talk about it for hours, but obviously
you hit on so many points.
I hit a lot of points. So now I'm going to toss the ball over to you. And what is your status of AI now, and where do you see it going in the near future?
I'm going to do some background.
Okay, good.
First of all, I want to say that you dropped my Locus Immunis was published 10 years ago by Permanent, and The Girly Playhouse is out now by Heresy Press.
Oh, I'm sorry I edited your bio.
Yeah, no, you left out my latest novel.
I'm sorry. It's for brevity's sake. But please, anything I left out, please feel free to talk about.
And I want to point out that literary fiction is what I write. It's the kind of language. It's very poetic and suggestive, and it has a lot of implied meaning. And AI can't do that kind of writing, and AI can't do that kind of art either. It's either very surreal or very literally representing something. It has a hard time connotating things in ways that humans can. And to me, and my PhD was on this type of topic. It was broader, but what is creativity and what is art, and how do you recognize it? What are the characteristics? And it's not just beauty, it's not just having meaning or something, but it's suggesting something other than itself. And anything AI creates has a very hard time doing that.
Yeah.
Now, so you mentioned Alan Turing. Alan Turing is one of my heroes that I have worked on for a very long time. And I've got a short story coming out called The Tragedy of Turing. And it's about Alan Turing as the Dr. Faustus character, and his life fits very well in that story. There's so many different parallels, but so my interest in Turing is in what he was working on in the final days of his life, and the reason I think he died, which is not a suicide, but probably MI6 often.
Yeah.
Now, he was working on morphogenesis, the study of biological form, spontaneous pattern formation in nature. And he was, and the first thing he did when he got a computer, the first computer, I forget what it's called, Colossus, is he ran through the equations that biology uses to develop fish scale patterns, animal patterns, a butterfly wing patterns, things like that. That's the first thing that he did with this new tool that he helped invent. And what he discovered was that his original idea about how the brain organizes itself and learns was incorrect. He was going by this selectionist, connectionist approach, like natural selection, reward and punishment kind of thing, training. You're punished when you do something wrong. You're rewarded when you do something right, which is terrible. It's not a good strategy for learning. For training you to do something and to be controlled, it works very well. But he had discovered he was starting to discover the way that brains work and the way thoughts emerge. And so, had he lived to continue to work on this, artificial intelligence would have gone a completely different way.
Yeah.
But the old way that he came up with initially is the kind of way that the CIA, the MI6, they like that because it's a way to control people.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's where they went with it. And they dropped, there was a field called cybernetics research, which was a lot more looking at how machines kind of learn things on the fly, and they're not created with, like robots necessarily. They're kind of more like animals. And so the cyberneticians were more interested in actually learning how biological systems and animals did things in the real world. But you went toward this, completely digitized notion of intelligence, and it really got away from what is real intelligence, which includes creativity, which machines don't have. And so I write a Substack called The Posthumous Style, because I have come to terms with the fact that I won't be recognized for my work until after I'm dead. That's the hope, anyway.
Yeah, me too. I'm getting closer, though. I'm closer than you.
That's the way it is,
Yeah.
But okay, what we do is not going to make a whole lot of money, because in order to create something that makes a whole lot of money, it's got to be something that can be copied over and over and over, and can be sold for pennies or very few dollars, and can be mass produced. Okay, so you can't do 10,000 book covers this month or this year, but AI can.
Yeah.
So people are going to move to that, but they're going to end up with book covers that aren't quite meaningful. When you did the book cover for the audiobook of Naked Singularity in 2025, it came out. I wrote back and forth with you a little bit and shared some ideas, and there were things that I didn't tell you to do, and somehow I guess you just from those clues you picked up, and it's an image. Well, maybe we can put it up. An image of a tree with a star map in the tree, and that was just, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have written that kind of prompt. I couldn't have conceived that, because as creative as I am in the literary world with words, I'm not there visually. So, book covers are important. People.
Yeah, it's important to me. but I like what you're talking about art. Like, okay, so let's get to the very heart of the matter. I think it was Tolstoy who said the purpose of art is to convey an emotion. And the AI, the robots, don't feel emotions. They don't feel love or things that we feel as human beings. So they can approximate it. They can
imitate.
they can imitate. It's the imitation game. So, that I think that is our only advantage moving forward, in my view, is that we have a soul and we do love and we do feel pain and we do suffer and we do mourn and we do these things that a robot can't possibly understand. So I think in art, visual art, I think people are going to start to fetishize handmade objects because everything's going to be fake. And I'm hoping I don't get relegated to being like, in colonial Williamsburg with the lady churning butter, a little bonnet on, like, oh, that's an artist. They used to make drawings before the robots did it. It's like, that's where I feel like it's going sometimes. But
I was a director of an art foundation in Manhattan for years, and we had a gallery. And our point then was that was in the days when concept art was very popular, and so you could throw garbage on the floor and call it art, and the critic would come along and tell you why you're supposed to appreciate that as art. And so we promoted artwork that required skill, and it required that artists have some sort of training with color theory, perspective.
What a crazy idea.
And then you learn all those conventions, and then you can break those rules once you know them well and break them in creative ways. But what we found with art, though, I mean, people still at that point when Adobe Photoshop had come in, people still wanted that object to hang on their wall. So there's still, we call it fetishizing or whatever, but it's an actual object of value that people can treasure and put in their home. It's not just a digital thing that's on the screen.
Yeah.
It has real value as an object, as a thing that's difficult to make and that requires some skills to assemble. And so I felt with all that the artist is still safe in their career as long as you have a public that respects that. And we go through times when no one in the art industry respected skill in art. It was all just marketing and things like that.
Well, yeah, and the postmodernists. Let's face it, the other thing working against you and I is that we're heretics. The gatekeepers to publishing and to the art world and the galleries and the museums and the periodicals I work for and academia, which I'm in. It's like they're all, they were all the 5 mask people, 12 boosters. That they were very different than us, and that's a huge hurdle to overcome because all of a sudden I was part of the cool club, right? I'm not part of the cool club anymore. Like I worked for New York Times and Time Magazine, and all these publications, and all of a sudden, like they stopped calling because they started seeing that I was a heretic. And
we both lost our place in the Academy over 9/11.
That's it. Well, yeah, it started with that
9/11 novel, and you did the 9/11 art too. Well, initially you were on board. But
it was right down the block from. I saw the whole thing happen, and I was like, "Get that Bin Laden," and then then I started doing some research. It was actually a job for the Village Voice that they asked me to watch these videos, documentaries questioning the official story, and I went in thinking these guys are crazy. Like I'm gonna mock them in this piece, and then in the process of watching these, oh my God, these are like pilots and architects and engineers and physicists, and like these aren't crazy people. They're asking really good questions, and that was sort of my awakening. I had the same visceral reaction that we were trained to have. I mean, it was all programmed, scripted event. You're going to be outraged enough so you approve the Patriot Act, which takes away all your rights, gives more power to the government, and launches a series of 7 wars. Like it was all war gamed out. The PNAC, Project for New American Century document. In the 90s, they had it all figured out. So we were just going through the script in real time. But I've come a long way since 2001.
I believe that that was propaganda that brainwashed us, and propaganda is very effective at using some of the tools that artists use in making associations, positive and negative associations through emotions, so that it overrides your ration. And
Yeah.
you can just place two things together in time and space, and you'll associate those two things together. And also, propaganda works on you when you're not really listening. So when you have a commercial and you tune it out and you're not paying attention to it, it's still going into your subconscious, and your subconscious isn't rational. It doesn't examine the logic, and but that information gets into your brain and is
Yeah,
there.
you're sort of
You dreamt it,
you're in a
basically.
hypnotic state,
You're in a
sort of a
hypnotic
hypnotic
state.
state. So you're more suggestible, but it's also fear-based mind control, right? So that they tried it with terrorism, 9/11. It worked for a little while, but didn't really stick. But then the COVID thing, the fear of death and the fear of the plague was so visceral, and it worked. I mean, people would do anything they asked, and that's why in my view, they're going to do it again because it worked so well.
Yes. So because propaganda works on the subconscious in the way it does, and you're hypnotized into this fear, this acting out of fear. I think that one of the reasons why logic and reason doesn't work to convince people to get out of that brainwashed mode is because you need to speak to the subconscious. And so I think that art is the more effective route into the subconscious to try to sneak in there. Now, with my book Locus Aminus, about it's Hamlet as a 9/11 conspiracy theorist,
Wow,
and
I got to read that one.
the idea, there's the audiobook too by a really great actor named Ben Jorgensen, who killed himself during COVID, by the way, because he was locked down in London.
Wow.
Yeah. So my second book, the sequel, the COVID sequel, is dedicated to Ben. But so I wrote that book as a retelling of Hamlet because I was thinking of all my friends in the academy, all these people who studied English literature. But by the way, I started out with an English degree and I ended up in complex system science. So if I say things that sound a little bit lopsided or whatever, there's that.
No, that's
factor.
great. Both sides of the
Yeah,
brain you have working.
yeah. But so I made him a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, and so everyone automatically you're predisposed to like Hamlet. You're predisposed to hate Claudius, his uncle, who is a secret murderer and a traitor. And so I made his new stepfather in my retelling a NIST bureaucrat who's part of the cover up. So in those ways, by reusing this storyline, people have already bought into the way that they're supposed to feel about these characters. And also I use comedy and I think a lot of people who in my area of literature who read the book, who didn't know anything about 9/11 truth or any of the controversy. Like some people just didn't know that there was a controversy at all. They didn't even hear of it. They didn't even know that we're supposed to make fun of it. Those people were really open to it, and I didn't know about that. That's really they just stumbled into the truth. So yeah, and I think too your artwork now. You and I met because you came to work for the Kennedy Beacon, which was the super PAC dedicated to getting Bobby Kennedy elected president. Not HHS secretary, not under Trump.
No, that was quite a twist of fate. We didn't see that one coming.
We did not see that one coming. But we our articles were unusual because of the artwork that it was important. It was often shared not because of the article itself, but because of the artwork. And I see so many of the images that you did popping up.
Oh, that's great.
Well,
thank you. And I agree with you. I mean, art, humor, merciless mockery of them. It's like these are the tools I use, and they work. But their weapon to counteract that is censorship, which is just
yeah.
now the AI is censoring the algorithms and force feeding the feed, and I'm on all kinds of lists as a bad person. So it makes it very hard to
And they don't even have to censor you. They just don't
shadow ban.
you. They just
Well, yeah.
shadow ban.
Well, that's the other thing. So not only do they shadow ban people like me and you, but they diminish our organic reach, so we don't even know how popular we are. But then they promote the people who are, parroting the establishment lie. They give them a boost in their presence, and it's just like a double fu really, because you're swimming against stream all the time. I'm just so tired of it. It's just like I just want a fair shot. Like I want to know where I don't even know where I stand, because the ADL wrote a hit piece about me and said I'm a bad person and I'm a terrorist. And it's like that once you have that threshold of awareness about you, then you're on a list, and now it like goes across all the platforms. So
I get pulled aside at the airport.
yeah, I mean, it's like every time I make a bank transfer, it says suspicious activity, and but we're on the front lines,
Yeah, if you get 3 of those suspicious activities, you get debanked.
Well, I'm about this close because I got CJ Hopkins. We both know CJ, and he lives in Germany, so just transferring things back and forth to him raised all sorts of suspicions. And but listen, we're on the front lines, and we have to expect some flack. And you're over the target when you get the most flack, right? So we're over the target, and they wouldn't, if we were just wild-eyed lunatics, they wouldn't be paying any attention to us. They want to shut us up, and unfortunately, they have the power to do it. And that's the biggest problem with the internet. I mean, it could have been something so wonderful, and then these tech.
It was invented by the CIA for the purposes that it's being used for now.
Oh, I know, but in the very beginning, there was this hope that it could be a place of
horizontal
communal and sharing information and countering the establishment lies. And
decentralization. It was
Big Brother goes both ways. We had a little brief shining moment there where it looked like we have a shot, and then the boot came down, and that was it. And now it's like, so the tech bros who destroyed the internet just filled it with porn and censorship and manipulation.
Our other friend that we met at the Kennedy Beacon, Gabriel, he has a website called gaberocks.com, and he talks a lot about internet freedom and things that we can do to use alternative forms of the internet. So I encourage people to go over there.
Absolutely.
Just to keep things in the family from those days. I swear, that was like, I felt like that I'll be friends with the people at that organization, like you are friends with your college roommates or something like that. Or
yeah, that was a great experience. I mean, Charlie is such a sweet guy. I still work with Charlie. He's such a great guy. Charlie Lyons was the editor, and his brother Tony runs Skyhorse Publishing, which publishes a lot of alternative.
Skyhorse published my latest novel, The Girly Playhouse, under Harrison Press.
Excellent. And so we have some good guys out there, and we got to stick together, because if we don't hang together, we'll hang separately.
Now I want to, now you said that the propaganda works on fear, and that to override that, this unrelenting satire and mockery, that's the way out of it. If I can do anything in my time with you today, Anthony, I want to convince you that AI is not intelligent. It is to be mocked. It is not going to achieve super intelligence. It is just a consensus machine. And I've got the receipts for that.
Okay. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. Because
you are wrong. You have been brainwashed.
Depressing. So you don't think the singularity is coming and AGI is going to happen?
No.
Really? Okay.
No, and you do say, it's going to be here any minute. They've been saying
it's always any
25
minute.
years now. They've been saying that. Now, when they first started working out in artificial intelligence, it was supposed to be that logic machine. It was supposed to be rational. They were using something called deductive inference, where you set up the logical algorithm that like more like a mathematical equation, 2 + 2 = 5, and you establish these facts. And they thought that if you could just create the base of intelligence on, based on the facts of the world, that language could be built upon that. But language evolved differently than logic did. A language is much more adaptable and creative. It's more like an evolutionary product than an engineering one. And so they started with what's called in inductive inference, that is just based on consensus. The kinds of things that happen all the time will probably happen again.
And conjecture too. Inductive is conjecture, right?
Yes, it's because it's not based on true facts and logic. Yeah. It's you're guessing. If I flip a coin a million times and it's usually 50% of the times it comes up heads, then probably it's that kind of. You can make those kinds of guesses, educated guesses. But there's no law to say that it definitely will be heads or tails at any particular. So it can only and it's amazing to us because we can't fathom that it is seeing all these ones and zeros as just patterns of ones and zeros. It has no way of understanding what those patterns mean. But it can match, it gets a prompt, and that pattern is very like a prompt in the data set that it was trained on. It's trained on massive amounts of information. And so it will find a pretty good match with something that was said on Reddit, something that appears on Wikipedia, something that appears here. And what follows is the most likely strings of ones and zeros after such a prompt. And that is literally the way it works. And it has the new invention that made this artificial intelligence different with the Chat GPT was something that they call attention heads, where you had the text prediction engines that, given this string of words, probably the next word is going to be this. They were pretty good at that, but 5 words out, it meandered and stopped making sense. So they started with these things called attention heads that re-examined that word and kind of what are all the possible words that could follow this word. And it sort of was a much more like feedback kind of process, so that at each juncture, a new sentence, there was more coherence or apparent coherence because it was looking at the probable patterns that are going to appear. And so in no way is that anything like intelligence. So my area of science that I work on is I look at sign processes in biological systems. Animals use signs, people use signs and symbols, but it goes deeper than that. Even on a biological level, you could say that every cell in your body is responding to a molecule because it's become associated with some downstream process. So it's standing for something else. It's implying something else. That cell has learned through its experiences. And so that's the missing ingredient that you don't have in a lot of scientific explanations of what is human intelligence, what is life, basically. It's that ability to use semiosis, the process of using signs, in learning new signs in your environment to be able to anticipate the future and act purposefully and to act intelligently in your world. Computers don't do that. They have symbols, they use codes, and codes have encrypted meanings, 1-to-1. This 01100 can only mean this. There's, and with codes, it's really important that it's a very precise encryption, right? You can't have it can't be a little bit wonky and fuzzy, right? So when you're writing code, it needs to be exact. It needs to be precise.
Yeah.
The beauty with biological systems is something can be meaningful to a cell because it's similar in shape to something else that it's familiar with.
Yeah.
So it can make mistakes, sometimes creative and sometimes productive mistakes, by just noticing this, reacting with something because it's similar, and also reacting with something because it happens to be near in space and time. And I don't want to get too much into the jargon in my profession talking about these things, but there's symbols and codes that computers use, and then there's different kinds of signs that biology uses called icons and indexes. And those are all based on contextual meanings. There is no context in a computer. And
Interesting.
so, so that's a full understanding. So that explains a lot of the kinds of weird mistakes that LLMs make. I just got an email from Melanie Mitchell. I think she's still at Santa Fe Institute. I did my dissertation work at Santa Fe Institute, and she just published, and I respect her view of her analysis of AI. She just published something in the Yale Review, explaining why LLMs, that's the generative AI, the chatbots, make these weird kind of errors because the only thing that they can do is generalize.
Hmm.
They can only make generalizations from large data sets. And so when they don't have the information about a particular topic, they'll just go to the nearest thing in their little vector space and just jump on that and confidently say, yes.
Yeah. Wow.
If you've noticed, there's another book by someone named Eric Larson called The Myth of Artificial Intelligence, who lays out, and he published that right before the Chat GPT thing came out. But everything he says about the nature of AI and the nature of computers compared to human intelligence is still valid. So that book is very useful still. He's got another one that he's doing. And he based his work on the American semiotician philosopher C.S. Peirce, who is also the founder of my discipline too in biosemiotics. So there's this kind of whole area, the whole discipline of science that is demolishing the idea that AI is intelligent or that it's going to develop artificial general intelligence.
Well, thank God. That's because I mean that literally, like, because I think this is sort of a demonic counterpart to the Holy Spirit. I look at it like that. Like we've made it incarnate with our work. But I mean, think about it. AI is nothing without our input, right? It's literally nothing. So, especially the way you describe it. But I just want to go back to, like, as an artist, you're talking about signs and symbols. That's the language I speak in. And it reminds me of Jung's book, Man and His Symbols, where he talks about the collective unconscious, and then there's certain symbols that have certain meanings to people throughout culture, throughout time, throughout history. You know, a dream about an owl has a specific meaning, right? So these symbols that predate language in our mind, you know, a little kid can understand a picture of a cat before they can say they'll write the word cat. And then you get back to, you know, ideograms or hieroglyphics. Like these are symbols that predate the written language in our history. So if we can get to that sort of primal atavistic connection that hopefully the AI can't do, that makes us, that's our essence. That's something that's uniquely ours, beyond our soul, beyond our capacity to feel. We have this ability, this innate ability to see the world through the symbolic lens. And I think that's really, I mean, things you're saying are really heartening. I mean, I'm not 100% sold, but I'm pushing me a little, because I listen to all these futurists, and I listen to all these, you know, guys who they're people doing this stuff, and they say AI is like 60% coding itself now. And in the future, it'll be 100%.
Yeah, no, it's not surprising that it would be able to write code. I mean, code is code, right? There's no interpretation there. It's got to be precise. So
Mm.
that doesn't surprise me. Although from my coder friends, people who do coding, it is still a tool that will never be, you know, I mean, every generation a new tool comes along that makes the tedious work that you've been doing much easier. And that's what the coding is doing for people who are software designers.
It's a leveraging tool.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
We don't need to be Luddites for that. It's a tool that will really help people and not spend so much time doing the tedious work.
Yeah.
Sometimes the tedious work can be good. Sometimes I write a novel in longhand.
Yeah, I mean, there's value in that, but I've been reading about the Luddites recently, and it's interesting because we've been taught that there are these guys just smashed machines and they hated technology. It's like no, they were so far ahead.
Yeah.
They're thinking that they saw that once you start replacing human skill, human creativity, human labor, human craftsmanship with machines, like where does it go? It goes to where we're at this threshold right now where
you know what it
they were
led
obsolete.
to? It led to those houses of hoarders that are filled with useless, mass-produced junk.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they were so prescient 150 years ago that they could see the logical extension, if you extrapolate it out 100 years, like is where we're at now. Like these were not, crazy cavemen smashing things. And they were so far, far thinking. It made me rethink that whole thing because, everything, the news is a lie. Imagine what history is like. Everything we're taught about, everything is a lie. That's why what we're doing is so important to counter these fraudulent narratives, whether it's COVID or 9/11 or important things, wars. I mean, that's why they put the boot down on our neck because they don't like that. They want the AI, and the AI is helping them get
the
back
AI
together.
is definitely. You started out saying that it's the satanic, demonic. Yes, it's being weaponized, and it can be used for all of the things that it is good at, like hacking, controlling. Things like maiming and harming and brainwashing and confusing and making angry. All those things AI can help you do, but it can't like put an original thought in your head. There's no way that they can do mind reading. So I taught a course at IPEC EDU on called "We Are Not Machines: Against Transhumanism." And I debunk every one of the transhumanist claims of mind reading, the Neuralink stuff, the idea of superhuman coding and being able to alter the genome in positive ways that won't result in horrendous side effects like we see.
Yeah.
And that is all because they don't understand how biological signs work. They think that biology uses codes with one-to-one encryption. No, it doesn't. There's a lot of interpretation that goes on in the body depending on the chemical context.
Wow.
So
Well,
they don't understand that. So
they don't understand a lot. Well, Epstein was into all this. He believed in it. And Richard Seed, I think Richard Seed was the original one of the original transhumanists, and he said, "I don't believe in God yet." Like they basically want to create an infinite intelligence that replaces God, it becomes a God because it's
misguided. They're misguided.
They're misguided, and
they're
also evil.
I have looked at all those claims, on my Substack, the posthumous style. I have looked at those claims that say that an LLM chatbot lied, deceived, or did some, and I analyzed their whole experiment that they did, and that's not what happened. They're intentionally creating this hype to make everyone scared.
Really?
And if you go through and look at the evidence that they present for their claim, it's just not there.
Like the blackmailing with the emails and.
Right, that's wrong. That usually these things happen when they're doing what is called, I think, a black hat test, where they try to get they feed it prompts in order to try to test it to see if it will do something. And so every time it ends up doing one of these things, it's because it's just responding to a prompt. Somebody told it to do that.
So they're telling it to be evil, basically.
Yeah, and you have to do elaborate things in order to get it to do exactly that. Yeah, read through the posthumous style for some of these claims.
Yeah, I have a lot of reading to do.
I
I got to catch up on some of this stuff. It's
Yeah,
hard to keep up.
so it's kind of like, remember how we were reading about all the articles being written about COVID that were trying to
Yeah.
scare us, and
Yeah.
how the vaccine was safe and effective. But if you read any of those papers, you get down to a couple of paragraphs and you get into the evidence and your numbers, and you say that there's nothing here. There is
Yeah.
nothing. There's nothing there, and that's what I'm doing with all these transhumanist claims, with all the DARPA projects that like neural dust and so forth.
All
And
right. So but I understood why the COVID people were lying, for billions of dollars in profit and control. And so why are the AI tech bros lying about this stuff?
because they want to switch to AI governance, and they want us to beg. They want us to be convinced that AI is going to be more objective and more reasonable than any human being. So they're exposing all the fact that we are that the human race is just disgusting, and there's so many in the Epstein class, and that it's unavoidable, this corruption. So we need to switch to governments that are run by a computer.
Yeah, they're at the heart of it all. They're Malthusian eugenicists. I mean, really, at the very heart, if you get down to the guiding principle is like they want us dead and sick.
They want
fewer of us, 500,000. They say they want of us, and the rest is done by machines while they, make trillions of dollars over just sucking the life out of us.
It's so weird that now today we can say that depopulation is the agenda.
Oh my God. I've been saying it for 20 years. And
I know.
Everybody said I was crazy. I was talking about Epstein's Island 20 years ago. Everybody said I was crazy. Oh yeah, Frida, there's some island rich guys eating babies. Yeah, okay. Now we have the proof. And did I get an apology? No, that's okay.
You need to ask yourself, why are they letting us all know about it now? Because we have known about it for decades.
Well, okay, I have a theory about AI. I think they pushed the AI. Like we never voted for AI, right? They just sprung it on us. I think it's plausible deniability. So when the videos start coming out, like Bill Gates graping a little baby, he could say, "That's AI. I didn't never grape the baby,"
Yes.
So, and it'll be believable enough. The AI is so good now, the text to video, that they'll have that plausible deniability. That's one of the reasons, I think.
Yeah, they also want the plausible deniability too when they do something like bomb a girls' school in Iran.
Yeah.
And they can just blame it on the algorithm that chose the target the wrong way. There's no culpability that way.
Blame it on the robots. They'll always have a fall guy, and it's not even human, so they can't put the robot in prison. So yeah, that's part of it too. So do you think the whole thing right now is like just another bubble?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
It is a useful tool for some things. Of course it is. But so in terms of it replacing a lot of the work that's being done, like I don't know, name,
accountants. I mean, there's a lot of accountants. That's an easy one to do.
It makes mistakes though in math. It's not that good in math.
Well, but isn't it getting better? They all say it's not done. It's only 3 years old. It's like
it's the nature of the design that it will only give you with a given prompt, it will only give you the most probable string of ones and zeros that follows that string of ones and zeros. It doesn't manipulate digits like a calculator does. But there are enough instances of correct mathematics that it gets the answer correct. Perhaps if you have something that's trained on a math data set, it's going to be more accurate. And it does help things with doing your tax return. That stupid bureaucratic filling out.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I have used, that's one of the things that I've used ChatGPT for, is I didn't understand why I had to put this figure in that space again when I've already had it there. And so I asked ChatGPT, and it had a good answer, because a lot of people like me wanted to know, why the heck I have to do this twice here? What's the point of that? And so it gave me good information, and I didn't have to sit on the phone and wait for IRS to answer and get someone who didn't know the answer to that. So yeah,
Yeah.
these stupid bureaucratic things, it'll be good at that. But I'll tell you what, the real solution to that problem is we get rid of the IRS and we
Well,
start.
yeah, you can do what I do. I have a solution. I don't pay my taxes because I saw the Doge hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud and theft and just looting they're looting it, or they spend it on these obscene wars, or they spend it on imprisoning me in this digital gulag. Like, I'm not paying for that. Like, it's bad enough I barely get through, on an artist and professor's salary. Like, I'm not getting rich, so, and I'm not giving a percentage to these baby eating demons. They're not getting it. So go ahead, throw me in prison. I don't care. I am not funding your demonic takeover of humanity. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we should never have had that. We should have never been put into a situation, having to pay taxes on our income, that requires us to open our records, financial records, to the government every year.
Yeah.
That makes us extremely vulnerable because no matter what, even if you try to do everything perfectly and you pay your taxes like a good boy, they'll find something wrong.
Well, yeah, of course. That's
So
that's why
it's
it's so, the
pointless.
system's so Byzantine. Like, Money Magazine did a famous experiment. They gave the same exact data to 100 accountants. They got 100 different returns because
Yeah,
there's no right answer. So
yeah,
the IRS can always say your answer is wrong because
yeah,
there is no right answer.
yeah,
And don't get me started on IRS, because I mean, it goes back to Woodrow Wilson,
yeah, yeah,
1913 Federal Reserve Act. I mean, Woodrow Wilson was like the evil incarnate. I mean, World War One and income tax and Federal Reserve. I mean, this guy just destroyed any pretense that we had of freedom.
yeah. Someday we'll return to talk about the topic of monetary theory, how you create money, but the Federal Reserve, it's the root of all our evil now.
Absolutely. Did you ever see the Creature from Jekyll Island by
Yeah.
Edward Griffin? Yeah.
People talk about the different reforms and different, different pieces of legislation or whatever. Nothing is going to improve as long as the banking industry is creating federal currency.
Amen.
Nothing
I mean,
will
yeah,
ever
that's it. You got it. Absolutely. Oh boy,
do.
like, that one's going to be a tough nut to crack. But you're giving me a little bit of hope, which I desperately need, because the Epstein Island and the AI and the plagues and the wars and the bombing girls' school, and it's just a relentless assault on our dignity and our humanity and our sense of what's good and what's true and what's right. And I just thank God for people like you and for the people on Substack. Like, we're at least we're trying. We're going down fighting. But do you have hope for humanity?
Well, okay, let me talk about my literary hope right now.
Okay. Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, because yes, I do. I have hope. I don't mean to be a Peter Thiel kind of answer. Like, do you want humanity to continue? And like, pause. Yes, I have hope for humanity. I do.
Okay.
I do. And let me just talk about my own little corner of it that I work in, and I love literary fiction, and I write literary novels that have language that is not just expressive of emotions, but every single line sort of resonates with other meaning, so that as you're reading, it's a very full and rich experience, as if there's color and music and light and everything going on in your brain that is not there in the literal words on the page. And that is what language does. That is what artistic imagery does. You're not doing photorealism that just is meant to be like a reportage showing the truth about something. You're showing something that's not there. And so now that AI is out and people are starting to use it to write genre fiction, and that's getting published, that's great for me because I don't write genre fiction. I write the opposite of genre fiction. I write fiction that uses conventions in a unique, weird way. And so maybe people will realize that since that those kinds of books are a dime a dozen, or millions of them can be produced in every year, maybe people will come to want to appreciate a language, a novel that does the thing that a novel can do, not just tell a story with like. So AI, when it makes up a story, it's got a hook, like um, Florida man opens his refrigerator and you won't believe what will happen next. It's so it's just set up with this thing, and then it can produce that is something that they've discovered engages with people. That's why people are addicted to crime novels.
Well, yeah, it can write great popcorn movies, right?
Yeah, and so it can manufacture all that, and so maybe that industry will just die because there'll be no one writing those books anymore because AI will do it really well, and so there'll be no one peddling them. There'll be no one trying to promote them except for the companies that own the AI that are doing that. But maybe people will just get tired of it because there's just so much of it, and it'll be less and less interesting the more and more things are produced.
Just regurgitating the same.
Yeah, and it's going to put its own novels back into the training data, and it'll just get.
Yeah, that's a creepy idea. That instead of gleaning stuff from us, it's like it's working off of its own AI slop.
Yeah,
and then it gets sloppier and sloppier
and sloppier and sloppier. So maybe there will be an appreciation for and a recognition of what sounds like human writing, and that is with the implied meaning, the connotation in addition to denotation. So what is that story about? Can it be paraphrased? LLMs, AI can paraphrase anything, but a literary fiction novel is in itself the words on the page. It cannot be paraphrased. You can't paraphrase a poem. What is it about? That doesn't give you the meaning and the full effect of the poem is in the way the words relate to each other and the particular choices that the poet made.
Yeah.
So yeah, paraphrase is not art. If you can paraphrase something, then it's not art. If it can be summarized, if it can be reproduced, if it can be copied, if it can be imitated, then it's probably formulaic.
Yeah. I mean, that's not going to stop them from doing it. I mean, I think you have a higher estimation of the public's taste than I do.
I only want my little niche of.
Yeah, that's all we need. We don't need everybody.
If 20,000 people bought my latest novel, I'd be really happy.
Yeah.
I don't need much.
Well, you're a great writer and researcher, and you've given me a little bit of hope. I'm praying you're right and I'm wrong, and these transhumanists are wrong, and you've definitely swayed me a lot and given me something that's really valuable, and I thank you for it because I've been pretty depressed about the whole thing. But
hey, you could really make fun of this.
I could do that all day. I do that in my sleep.
Remember, I think all this fear mongering that they're doing. There's
awful.
A reason for that. They want to get you into that place where you're so afraid of it, and you can't think straight when you're afraid.
Yeah, that's fear-based mind control. Like I said, they did 9/11, they did COVID, they're doing AI. That's like 3 strikes. Like they hit us with these 3 big. I don't know what the next one. I have ideas what the next one's going to be. I think they're going to do a cyber attack.
Yes.
And shut down the internet, and then say like, bad people shut down the internet. So now to get back on, you have to be totally controlled. Every only go to sanctioned websites.
Yeah, that's coming.
That's their move. I mean, if we have,
that's 100%.
Yep, that's it. Yep. So get ready for that one.
Yeah, talk to Gabe. Talk to Gabriel about getting MeshNet or some other way to communicate with people. We need to do that
I will.
Get in touch.
Well, thank you so much, Tori. And I think you're right. I mean, our only hope is our souls and our ability to to dance and to explore in the mythopoetic realm of art and music and writing. And this is our sacred realm.
Yes.
And these damn robots are not going to take it over.
No, absolutely not. They can't. They're stupid.
Well, good. Thanks again, Tori. And do you want to tell people again where to find your stuff?
Probably the easiest way is to go to vnalexander.com and check out my book. My latest book is The Girly Playhouse, and it's published by Heresy Press. And on Instagram, I am Red and Alexa iRot. That's Tori Alexander backwards on Instagram.
Okay.
Or on my website too, and you can listen to some of the readings from my novel. That's how you get a real sense. I can talk about the plot and what happens all day long, but when you hear the language that I'm using, you'll understand why you want to buy that book and read it.
Excellent. Well, check out Tori's great work, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.